evening once again, and welcome to another Doctor on Call program. It is a pleasure, as always, to be with you. Of course, every Tuesday evening at this time, we share with you information that you can use to help improve your wellness. Of course, we say welcome to our viewers on GBN Television, 711, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also our listeners on K105 FM. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you. This evening we will be talking about our kidneys. Yes, the importance, how to take care of it, and all the wonderful things. In fact, this week, World Kidney Day in a couple of days, so it's just sort of fitting that we do that. And of course, Dr. Nixon is with us as always. Doc, good evening, and how are you?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Good evening, Grenada, and everyone who's listening to us this evening, especially my special seniors. Good evening to everyone.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I'm doing okay, and we're ready to share as we do on Tuesday evenings. So it's when is it? Yes, it's World Kidney Day. Let's see, when is that? On the 12th. Yes, that's Thursday, World Kidney Day. And so we'll be talking about our kidneys this evening. We do know that it has a very special function, but of course we are going to sort of go through that and share with you information, and very importantly, how to protect your kidney. Because if your kidneys go bad, then things can be bad. So, Doc, our kidneys... It will be bad. These two little bean-shaped things in our back. Let's talk about it. Yes.
So, again, good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure being here. I want you to know that renal function was my hardest thing in medical school, okay, because it's very complicated. And I remember when I went to do my final physiology exam, I had to, it's micturition. Micturition is the act of passing urine, okay?
Yeah.
The whole mechanism is very complex. And I spent hours. Normally we have oral exams, so I go early in the morning because I want to get over and done with second Lyme and then start study for my next exam. And I didn't go to my exam until probably after 1, and I couldn't take it anymore. My brain was sick and nothing else. So I decided to go, and I saw one of my colleagues coming back, and I said, "What you get?" And he said, "I got X." And I said, "Boy, I read that thing so much I just can't remember it. I'm not going to get it." And you actually walk into the exam room and they have a series of cards with 6 questions. And you have 6 or 5 questions, you have to answer 4. And guess what was there?
Kidneys?
Micturition. Micturition. I started to laugh, and the professor says, "What's it?" I said, "Oh, nothing." And so I answered the other 3 questions. It was 4 questions, you have to answer 3. So of course I know I'm not answering micturition, okay? And so I went up and I asked. He said, "Okay, next question. You know your information, right? Next." And then he says, "Why did you not answer that 4th question?" And I started laughing. I said, "The truth is that was the most difficult part of physiology for me. Despite how much I read it, it just didn't fall in line." And he says, "Okay, so since you don't know everything, I'm not going to give you full grades." But I got good grades. Overall grades were good, very good. But urinary system is crazy. But kidneys are really very important organs, and so you have to make sure you understand how they function basically anyway. So there's these two kidney-shaped, like beans, like red pea shaped.
Yes.
Yeah, kidney-shaped. These 2 bean-shaped organs, like a red kidney bean, kind of look like it grows, but they're big. They're probably the size of your fist. Nice and smooth outside. It has its compartments inside, right? And the fundamental function of your kidney is to filter the blood so that all impurities are taken out. So over 120 to 150 quarts of blood flow through your kidneys every day. All the blood in your body just keeps going round and round. It's just like water coming through the water purification system we have in Grenada. River comes through, and it comes in there, and all the valves and the chemicals and all the rest are put into action, into motion, so that we can open up pipes and get clean water. What's not good is thrown out on another side,
right?
And that would be the urine,
right?
Right. That's what bears the impurities. We expect our bodies to produce like probably 1.5 liters or more urine, like 2 quarts of urine, if we drink enough water, if we're doing the right thing. And that's an average, right? Because a child might put out less. Somebody who drinks a lot of water might put out more. Somebody who's outside working and not consuming enough might put out less.
Right.
But generally, if you're producing urine, it should look what we call straw-colored. Like if you add water to a beer, and you can barely see a little bit of yellow.
Right,
But it's transparent. And it don't have any bubbles like the beer. There's no bubbles. There's no, kind of like if you dilute a ginger ale. So urine really shouldn't be clear like water. Although the clearer it is, it should reflect that you're drinking more water.
Right.
Okay? So it's expected to be diluted. But it should be straw-colored yellow with nothing else seen. It shouldn't have any odor. You shouldn't see anything floating. There shouldn't be any froth. There shouldn't be any blood. There shouldn't be any little things look like egg.
But no, you said no froth. But I mean, generally, if you pass urine, I mean, as young fellas, you want to pee, you go in a corner, you pee, and it was something about young boys. If your pee make froth, then you start to play big man. I mean, that was something with boys. I'm not sure.
No, that's a different thing. If you're not when you're competing, if you're under normal circumstances, you go to the bathroom and you pass urine and there's a lot of froth and bubbles, you ought to be concerned about that.
Okay.
And it stays on there. I'm not talking about flinging against the wall and air getting it and it make bubble. I'm not talking about that.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Speaking about, you go to the bathroom, you pass urine, and so you don't see the little flecks. Then like when an egg break, you might see little piece of flecks in the water if you're boiling an egg. You don't want to see anything like that. You want to see nothing in it. It must be clear, transparent, mustn't have any blood, mustn't have any sugar in there, mustn't have anything. That's normal urine. And you expect it to pass like up to 2 quarts for the day.
Right.
All right. So we're looking at World Kidney Day this year. We're talking about kidney health for all. And I really think that's a good theme because I think we need to all focus on keeping our kidneys healthy, because that's the center of your body's working. That which makes you healthy. It is related to so many of your other body's functions, right? That you have to be very careful that you don't take good care of your kidneys, because once your kidneys start working inefficiently or you start failing or you have full-blown kidney failure, then your life changes and your life can be significantly shortened. Okay,
right.
So where these kidneys, they're in the back. If you're on the rib cage, to the back. So not on your side, but to the back. These kidneys are placed there, right under the diaphragm, but to the back, right towards your back. And then they have 2 little tubes that go down to the bladder called ureters, and from the bladder you have the urethra, through which your urine passes, whether it's through the penis or through the vagina, through the urethra. Right, in the female to come outside into the bathroom or wherever you're going to expel the urine. So you have your kidneys, your ureters, your bladder, and your urethra. Okay, and that's basically how the system is made. Now, these kidneys might look, and some of us eat kidney, right? I mean, it's an offal that we eat. The kidneys is made up of like up to 1 million little units called nephrons, each kidney. And those are the little units that do all the work, right? And because try to imagine 1 million of those things fitting into one little kidney. You know, there's a lot of work going on in there, right? And they're really, very tiny. And they in a little capsule with strong enough blood vessels around each one. Right, and then it has a loop, and then when it gets to the end, so you have the urethra. Think of it like a funnel, the blood. I want to say squeeze, for want of a better word, right? Fluid it goes into the kidney. The kidney removes some of it. What is not good, it puts out in the urine, and then the rest of the blood goes back into normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The blood, it goes back into the blood, into the venous system of the kidneys. So you have a mesh of blood vessels, arteries on one side, veins on the other side, and then you have this little this little nephron that takes the stuff, filters, manages it along a loop-like thing, and then it goes back into the system. And what's bad goes to the urine, and what's good stays in the kidney and it goes back again. But sometimes these don't work well, and we have to figure out how we're going to keep our kidneys working well, because that's what we hear about tonight.
Yes.
How am I going to make my kidneys work? Even if I don't have perfectly functioning kidneys, how am I going to maintain what I have Okay? How are my children going to care for their kidneys? Because that's one of the challenges that we're having with the way we feed our children, with the amount of exercise, with the fact that instead of drinking pure water, they're drinking sugar-sweetened beverages, a lot of sugar-sweetened beverages. And when you have all that sugar, the poor kidneys go under pressure because they know how to filter out all that sugar and probably put it back into the system. Or it can spill out into the kidneys, and then you see, oh my goodness, I'm spilling sugar because I just have too much sugar in my body. Mm-hmm. And that's when diabetes comes on. Okay? So what are the basic functions? Basically, on filtering the blood, all your blood in your body goes through the system. It removes waste, it removes toxins, and it takes away the excess fluids. Like I said, if you were to drink 2-liter bottle of water, you're going to be passing urine very often because the kidney realizes, oh, this is just too much fluid.
Right. So,
you know? Right. And it dilutes the blood, it dilutes the electrolytes, those salts that you have in your body that should balance how your muscle work or your heart works and stuff, right? So that's fundamentally removal of waste and whatever toxins. You might have other things that you eat that are not good for you that come out in your urine, mm-hmm. Okay? Or might be too good for you. You might eat the wrong thing, so much of one thing, right? So as a kidney filters the blood, right? What happens? First, you have removal of waste. I'm going to start with that, okay? So when you eat proteins and stuff, you break down, you get creatinine, you get urea from exercise and stuff, right? Those things come out. Your body, the nephrons filter out that. Okay, that goes into urine. So if you have to test urine to see what are the components, you find all of these things, right? And like I said, the toxins and even your medications that you take. A lot of our medications are what we call metabolized by the kidney. So what we need stays on, and the kidney removes the excess.
Right. Okay.
Right? So you'll find some of your thing in there. And other things, like if you're using substances, you can check the urine to see if you have cannabis or cocaine or heroin or whatever in your urine, because the kidney filters all of these toxins, all of the substances. All right. So urine is a very, very important product, right, for testing how your body functions, how well your body is functioning, what is going on inside there. Like I said, if you're smoking cannabis, you can test the urine and find that there's cannabis in the urine, or other drugs, and even other medications. You can test to see if there's other medications in your system. Okay? So that's what happens that's waste. Okay? You have other places that move waste, like the stools, like the gut, but we're talking about the kidneys functions. Mm-hmm. All right. It also helps to balance how your body functions. For example, it balances your blood pressure. There's a chemical called renin that's produced in the kidneys, and the renin-angiotensin system balances off how your kidney, whether your blood vessels are going to be stiffer or not, right? How your body uses its sodium and all the stuff are run by this system, right? So it produces renin, and it actually helps to regulate your blood pressure, all right? the red blood cells, and people who have renal failure, who have kidney failure, I would say renal in relation to kidney as well, okay? People who have kidney problems sometimes develop anemia because there is a thing called erythropoietin that is also produced by the kidneys that helps in the production of red blood cells, right? It stimulates the organs to produce red blood cells, the bones to produce red blood cells. If your kidneys are not functioning well, then you're expected to have low red blood cells or anemia, right? Because you don't have erythropoietin production in an organ that's not functioning at its optimum, right? It also balances. Remember talking about the electrolytes, the different salts like sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphates, etc. Right? And it balances because those things are necessary for your muscles, okay? Especially for the function of your heart muscles, those electrolytes. And so whether or not you feel weak because your muscles feel tired if you don't have enough or you have too much, or whether or not you're having problems like palpitations because you have too much or too little, right? So it helps you to balance the electrolytes, okay? So some of us, like you have had diarrhea, let's say your child has diarrhea. Well, adults cannot do better with IV fluids, and the child becomes flaccid and stuff, right? The poor kidneys, you give the person a drip, and maybe the sodium in the drip is too much, but your kidneys will regulate it when the rest of your body's functions become balanced. You know, when you play football, you used to play football?
Yeah, not a lot.
So you're in the spectator team. That's a very important team, okay? Don't forget that. But, you know, people get cramps after playing games, right? Because they use so much of their sodium, right? So much of the salt through their skin, right? And then they get cramps in the night until you drink a little salt water. You drink a little salt water and that balances off. But sometimes you can lose a lot through skin, through sweating. So when you drink, your kidneys say, okay, we don't know. And it takes off whatever excess you have once it's balanced enough to what it knows you need to have as a normal level. It's calibrated for that. Okay, it doesn't need AI, it already knows that. It has its own intelligence. All right. And then the other function that we have in balancing body function is the production of vitamin D for your bones. Right? Activating vitamin D to go into your bones, sorry, not production. Activating vitamin D for your bones. So you have it hanging around and once it gets into it makes it go into the bones so that your bones can get stronger. Okay? We talk about fluid balance, right? Managing the body's water, right? By decreasing or increasing the output. So if you drink too much, it will say, oh no, that's too much water. Let's make you urinate a little. If you drink it too little, it will concentrate your urine, and then the urine color changes from that clear straw yellow, and it gets kind of concentrated. Really start to look like real beer and you don't want it to look like that, and whiskey and those kind of, you don't want it to look like that. Okay, if it starts having any darkness, you can say, oh my goodness, there's probably some blood in here. Okay, that comes out from as high up as the kidney. So you don't want that, right? And above all, it makes sure that you feel hydrated. In other words, if it's going to control how much you release, it's because it wants to make sure that your body feels sufficiently hydrated and that you feel well. Okay? Hydration as in having enough fluids, having enough water in particular, according to what you need.
Okay.
And we talked about electrolyte imbalance already, or balance. The potassium, the chloride, the phosphate, etc., so that your heart and your nerves and by extension, your muscles can function normal. So that is what it is. And of course, we talked about other stuff like the erythropoietin, how it signals bone development and how it makes the bone, how it makes the bone, sorry, not development, how it makes the bone produce red cells, because red blood cells are produced in our bone marrow.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, lovely. I just want to ask something about the water. So you said if you drink a lot of water, of course, the kidney would start getting rid of it. My question is, can someone then drink too much water?
Yeah.
Right, and if you drink, excessive amount,
you can overwhelm your kidney if you're taking in too much water, right? And you can make your electrolyte imbalanced. Electrolyte balance become imbalanced, and you can get sick, and you can get other things like heart attacks if everything gets diluted, because it's way under the what we call the physiological normal. So be careful. And I've seen kids sometimes, you're playing games, right? And every time you lose a game, you have to drink a glass of water. But you're playing a very short game. And sometimes you can have that water poisoning because you're drinking more water than your kidney can afford to flush. So be very careful with those games.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to... Yeah.
Some of us do that.
Wonderful. Yeah. But can it actually cause, let's say, physical damage to the kidney if you drink excess amount?
Water?
Yeah, excess amount.
Oh, I don't know that it can cause physical damage. It can cause bigger damage, You can have a kidney that's overworking and can fail, but I think what will cause is damage elsewhere in distant organs because you have electrolytes so diluted that especially your heart.
Okay. You also mentioned the regulation of blood pressure and blood sugar. All right.
I'm never mentioned about you. We're ahead of the team. Well, I didn't.
You didn't say that? Yeah, man. I thought you said it does.
You hallucinating tonight. You need to check your blood sugar.
No, I'm sure. You spoke of blood.
But you're right. So
when you spoke of renin,
I spoke of hypertension, but not blood sugar.
Not blood sugar. Okay. Right.
So let me explain that because obviously you haven't got it. If you have elevated blood sugar, right, your kidneys, it comes through the sieve, which the nephrons facilitate, right? It comes along a tube, the loop, descending loop and ascending loop of Henle, right? And if you have surplus sugar, that will go out into your urine as toxins, as a toxin, as something to
get rid of,
Right. Does that regulate your blood sugar? I don't know that it does because you need other things, right, to regulate your blood sugar. What it indicates to us is that you have elevated blood sugar and you need to work on wherever that comes from. Okay. Which is a whole different discussion.
So you're not doing that, the kid is not doing that work for you? Yeah, you had to handle that.
It's not doing that work. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're insulting the kidneys when there's so much sugar filter. Because the sugar molecules are kind of big, right? When they start to go through it, because there's a lot of damage already to these little nephrons, they're really tiny, and the sugar molecule is going through the little one sugar molecule, right? If you have a sieve, right? When you go to the quarry, you have different
grades of grades of
things the same way. If the grade for the fine sand, the sieve for the fine sand is broken, then bigger sand will come through it, right? No. In the same way, if you break the sieve in general, the bigger molecules will come through. So once you start see sugar, you know that you already start having some stress on your kidneys, right? Once sugar starts filling, you know there's really a whole lot, and these sugar molecules are really pushing their way through, right? And coming through this little sieve. So you need to be aware of it.
Right, lovely. So let's talk a little bit about the balance of the regulation of the blood pressure. And how can elevated blood pressure affect your kidneys?
So like I said, the renin-angiotensin system does do a feedback thing and help your blood vessels to dilate a little, to give a little space more, because when your blood vessels get constricted, sometimes because you have high cholesterol, sometimes because you have all the salt in your system and stuff, right? Your blood pressure would go up, and the kidney tries to avoid that happening and creating some relaxation. However, if the blood pressure is high and the kidney has not managed to regulate it, right? there can be damage. We've spoken about this a lot of time about rain falling heavy and water coming to the treatment plant. When we talk about hypertension, water coming to the treatment plant, if you have, remember these nephrons are very little, and you have the renal arteries going into the kidney, right? And the blood pressure is high, it is expected to do some, do a little work, damage your nephrons. So your kidney, once you've had this ongoing insult, right, this constant effect of elevated blood pressure on your kidneys, they start functioning badly because you kind of mash up the system. You understand? The system becomes compromised and can no longer, the renin angiotensin system can't work anymore because it's just physically broken. Right? It's just physically broken and you can't manage it any longer.
Right. So all right. So both, because you see, I ask because I think there's there are those among us who believe that kidney damage generally occurs when, in other words, it is closely associated with diabetes, and yes, that may be so, but I don't think many people understand how hypertension can actually affect your kidneys as well.
But unfortunately, most people who have diabetes, because of that whole vascular relationship, most people who have diabetes have hypertension. If you have hypertension alone, you may not have diabetes. But most people who have diabetes have hypertension. And I call it Bonnie and Clyde. They come like two teeth. They come to kill and conquer. Okay? And so that's why it's so important to control both your blood pressure and your blood sugar if you're at that state. As a matter of fact, some patients may not, some doctors should, and many doctors do, give their patients who are diabetics alone a low-dose antihypertensive drug just for kidney protection. Make sure that your sugar, even if your pressure is not high, make sure that your kidney is properly protected. So you can take an ARB and angiotensin renin blocker, right? Or even like calcium channel blockers, which are also part of the whole blood system and the vascular system, right? So like things like amlodipine and telmisartan and valsartan and nifedipine and stuff, right? And some of the ACE inhibitors as well. So I give you a little bit of enalapril or a little bit of ramipril. All of those things do have kidney protection, kidney protective capacity, and we give to a patient to ensure that we maintain the integrity of the kidneys for as long as possible, despite the insult that may occur from having elevated blood glucose. Right. That's in the case of diabetics. So you might give them, you may not have hypertension, but you want to make sure that you can already give a certain level of kidney protection. Because in diabetics, if you're diabetic, by the 20th year of your diabetes, you already have renal, kidney damage, eye damage in your circulation and stuff. Because remember that a lot of us, by the time we diagnose diabetes, we have already been having diabetes for a while. Is when we really get feeling very sick. That's when we realize, oh my goodness, my sugar is elevated. Right?
Right. So apart from hypertension and diabetes, are there other underlying conditions that can also affect your kidneys?
So there are several other of course, there are other conditions that may affect your kidneys. And one of the things that some people are born with very tiny kidneys. Just how you're born and have diabetes very early. Some people, I have a young friend and patient who died recently in her 30s because she started having hypertension very early. And we checked, she had what we call hypoplastic, meaning underdeveloped kidneys, or aplastic, they don't have any kidneys, or they're just a little lump, right? So she's had kidney function challenges from very early, but as you get older, it becomes more and more obvious that is what it is. So you can not have kidneys at all. Other things like having kidney stones. And a kidney stone is a thing where you literally have a little stone in your kidney that can, if it backs up the urine, can damage how your kidney functions. Doesn't matter where that stone finds, what is inside the kidney, along the ureters, in the bladder, as long as you have urine that backs up, right? That's keeping all these toxins in your urinary system. It can cause damage to your kidneys. Infections, regular infections like infections to the kidney. I want to say the meat of the kidney, the kidney itself, right? So if you get infections, if you have a kidney infection, you have to be hospitalized.
All right.
If you have a kidney infection, it is cause for hospitalization. A lot of people don't agree with you when you want to send them to hospital, but they simply don't understand that having a kidney infection, a pyelonephritis as it's called, how damaging it can be. Imagine the whole of the organ being inflamed and having bacteria destroying itself, right? It's like you're having a piece of chicken that's rotting. If you don't take care of it, the kidney can die. Okay, and it may be one kidney, yes, but you don't want to put strain on the other kidney. All right, and there are other things like nephritis, where you have inflammation. Diseases like autoimmune diseases like lupus can cause you to have challenges with your kidneys, right? And so you want to make sure that you follow it up very carefully.
Right, wonderful. So
there's another thing that we have. I want to say there. So some of us might find, your doctor might send to do an ultrasound, which is like putting a camera on your tummy or on your back and looking at your kidneys, right? Getting an image on a screen. But you might find that your kidneys have cysts, and a cyst basically is like having. Remember when we used to have buy a balloon and then put water in it and call it chick?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or let's say, think of a cod liver oil capsule. It's really fluid, usually clear fluid, encapsulated in a.
The sort of liquid in a capsule. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and so you can have polycystic. You can have poly, meaning many, cystic as related to cysts, having a lot of cysts on your kidneys, and that is often a familial thing, which causes hypertension and which causes very early renal failure. So when one person has it in their family, you do have to look for other people, because that is a familial problem.
Mm-hmm. 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 Right. You mentioned. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I forgot, I just don't remember other stuff.
Yeah.
Other causes.
Okay. You mentioned kidney stones, which is an actual thing, but how do they form?
So that's another thing. You have a predisposition to forming kidney stones, okay? Kidney stones is formed by the presence of some mineral along the coming of the blood, probably. Yeah, right? And when we talk about drinking water and making sure that your kidney flushes properly, so let's say you have calcium stones, which are probably the most common, right? If one little piece of calcium, because you have that propensity, you have that possibility of liver stone. So one little piece of calcium falls into this thing where you collect the urine, right? But you're not drinking enough. It stays there, and then another piece comes on, another piece comes on, and literally forms a little rock. A little chalk rock, calcium rock, right? That's basically the mechanism. So you will tell people, look, you just have to, people with kidney stones who are not severely affected, you say, look, you just have to drink a lot of water. In drinking a lot of water, you would always be passing urine and removing just the little flecks that are formed first. And you can have calcium, you can have other forms of stone, other kinds of stone. I remember seeing a lady, it's funny. This is a tourist who was on a honeymoon, went to Antigua, and Antigua had a hurricane. And then Mr. Stewart from Sandals took all his guests to Jamaica, which had a hurricane right after, had a storm right after that. But this person had severe pain, and had the symptoms of, having kidney stones. And I asked her to pass some urine in a glass, because that's the only container that was in the room, right? Mm-hmm. And when she passed the urine looked like almost Like if you mixed stout with a little bit of water, very dark, because there's also bruising high up in our kidneys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this little crystal that looked like a damsel seed.
That's big.
Not a big damsel, okay, look at damsel, but it looked like a damsel seed. How the shape of it, with the spikes,
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't smooth like a pea, right? It was lobulated like a damsel seed. That's a different kind of stone. That is not a calcium stone. Calcium stone literally look like a piece of chalk.
Right.
It might be a little grayish, but it looked chalky. And you'll see flecks in the patient's urine. All right? But that patient never knew that she had kidney stones, never knew. And here she was in this crisis, pain. And I said, can you pass her urine? And she passed the urine, and the kidney stone came out. And then she didn't need anything else except some antibiotics. Okay. Because she had this trauma for a few days.
But let me ask, if you have, let's say, a little bruising of the kidney, that came about because of a kidney stone, can that heal and the kidney continue with normal functions?
But that depends on how long you've had this kidney stone, the size of the kidney stone, the placement of the kidney stone. So they're different stuff, because some people have kidney stones that are just there in the the funnel, right, that receives, and they may have damage to their kidney because you have this thing that looks like a little horn, the staghorn fern. Mm-hmm. When you actually see it looking like that in the on the ultrasound. So it will depend on how long you've had this, how long you've had it, and how extensive it is. And you can, if you had this long indwelling kidney stone that grows and grows and grows, you can have damage to your kidney. And then becomes a kidney rock. It just at least a stone will roll.
Right. So, what are some of the signs someone might encounter? That may indicate that there is some little issues going on with the kidneys.
Well, remember you pass urine. That's a fundamental thing that you pass urine. You pass urine. So if you start passing urine very often, much more than normal, right? And that's just urinary symptoms, okay? Mm-hmm. If you start passing urine much more than normal, you're worried. Or if you're passing much less than normal, you know that something is wrong here as well. So if you drink 3 liters, let's say 4 bottles of water, 2 liters of water every day, and you work in air condition, you go to the bathroom before you leave home in the morning. When lunchtime you go to the bathroom, or probably like 10 o'clock. After lunch you go, before you go to your house, you get home, you go to the bathroom, right? And then it's all here like, I didn't go to the bathroom at lunchtime today. Or when I went to the bathroom, it was a little less than normal. So you have change in your whole urinary output, not just in quantity, but in how often, right? At first, when your kidney starts failing, because it tries to compromise, tries to make up, you might end up going a lot, especially in the night, going to the bathroom. You don't necessarily pass in any more urine than you'd pass collectively, mm-hmm, right? But you go very frequently because here's this kidney that's trying to make up, right? That's kidney. But then the urine might look different, very concentrated, maybe even dark, even if it's not a stone. You may see the froth. Remember we talked about the froth, yeah, when it starts failing. If you have an infection, it might have a smell, right? If you have an infection, you might have burning when you're passing your urine. And of course, most people with infection will go frequently. You might have pain. You might have pain in your flanks, right? Where your kidneys are. If you have a kidney infection, you may have pain in your bottom of your belly if you have a a bladder infection, right? So um, the whole the whole pattern of how your urine is, of how micturition micturition occurs is changed. Okay, so you go more often or you go less. You might see blood, you may not see blood. You may see pus, you may not see pus. Right? You might see little flecks, like you might tell a little flick, like a little bit of egg white.
Yeah.
In your urine, and you may see what we call casts. So you may see. I'm gonna tell you the nephron is like this, right? And it has a loop, right? So you might find what we call casts, protein casts, blood casts, that shape like a cast. Like all these things were there for a little while and then they came out in the urine. All right? You may see that in the urine when you take it. And like I say, it may have an odor or not. It may smell not so hot, right? It may not be bad like it's bacteria and it could smell other things because your kidneys are already under pressure and producing very concentrated urine.
Okay.
Then that's just the urine. But then people with kidney, and that's progressive, huh? Because in the beginning you may not even feel unwell. But then when you have severe kidney disease, your skin gets very dry because you don't have enough hydration. You have accumulation of toxins, plus you don't have the nutrition getting around sufficiently if your kidney functions start malfunctioning. So you look sick, you have swollen feet. So you're drinking water because you don't want your kidneys to go bad?
That's right.
You may have swollen feet. You may also have swollen ankles, feet and ankles, but people also have swollen hands and eyes, okay? When their kidneys, as it progresses. But the general weakness and the malaise and the pressure goes up and, just feeling very ill, irritability, not being able to sleep. Those are some of the symptoms that come when your kidneys don't work well.
Right. What about, so let me just put it out. As you mentioned, swollen feet and ankles, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if your feet or ankles are swollen, it's a straight case that you have a kidney problem. It doesn't mean that, right?
No,
right. Okay. Look, just so that people understand. And then you see your foot swollen, you get frightened, and you start thinking that you.
No, but if your foot not because something is swollen, either way, you need to see a doctor anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Either way, you need to see a doctor.
Right. What about things like vomiting and stomach pain? Can that
those things come when you're really very ill, when the urea, and probably we should talk about the labs and stuff first. But when you have high levels of urea in your blood, right? It causes uremia, urea in your blood, uremia, right? And that makes you vomit and irritable and fatigued and weak and makes you very sick. You just have general malaise and you can be very sick, and the vomiting comes as well, and the epigastric pain and all the rest of it, because you have so many toxic substances that should have gone in your urine that remain inside your body.
Right. That's uremia, and there are a couple other, I guess, medical terms that, not to complicate things too much, but you're a doctor, so you know these things. So you hear about other related conditions like proteinuria, that's excess protein in your body, in the urine?
Anything that says urea has to do with urine.
Right.
You're not supposed to have any protein in your urine.
Why?
Because you're not supposed to. Your kidneys are not supposed to spill protein. People may have protein in the urine. Let's say you've had intercourse. Right? And a male may have semen in the urethra. He passes urine. They check the urine. They say, when is the last time you had intercourse? And in the female, too, you might have some urine that comes out of the vagina and goes into the urine. Some of the semen, right? Comes out. But you're not supposed to have protein in your urine.
Right. So have protein in the urine, is it indication of kidney problem or some other problem or both?
It is an indication the kidney is not working well.
All right.
Generally.
Okay.
Regardless of what the cause is. It's an indication that the kidney is not working well. Because you might tell you how you have the nephrons and it's like a little sieve. If the thing starts opening, because your proteins floating around in your blood, but if these nephrons start opening, the sieves start opening, you'd have protein what we call spilling into your urine. Okay, and that's a bad indication in the case of diabetes. And maybe we should talk about, hypertension, the diabetes and your kidney functions. We can come to that. But once you start spilling, in other words, it spills over from the blood into the urine. That's not good. It's called proteinuria, or just protein in your urine.
Right.
That's not a very good thing at all.
Okay. Then there is PKD. The polycystic kidney disease.
We talked about that.
Okay, all right, but so that's different from a renal cyst. Is it different, or they similar in nature? Okay.
You can have one cyst, but polycystic kidney disease
means
a lot.
That okay, you have a lot.
All these cysts develop on the kidneys, and it damages the functional, damages the normal kidney, so it can't provide its functions. It can't do what it has to do. Having one cyst is having a cyst. Could be just arbitrary, right? But like I tell you, polycystic kidney disease is also a familial thing. So if you have one person, it's genetic.
Right.
If one person has it, you have to check everybody else.
Right. And then there's the condition called acidosis.
So acidosis is really telling us how our body manages its carbon dioxide and its oxygen, and it has to do with whether or not your kidneys are getting rid of because some of the excess toxins will produce carbon dioxide, right? And if your body's not extricating it appropriately, you can develop acidosis. And then there also the hydrogen and oxygen are kind of managed on that loop in your kidney.
Right.
So if you have kidney malfunction, you can have acidosis if you're not getting rid of the hydrogen in particular, the hydrogen component in whatever is in your body.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about.
But those are things that are going to happen in people who are very ill.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Those happen. The acidosis. And even proteinuria might happen, and even in diabetics. But acidosis is something that probably will already have you in a hospital because you'd have had such severe functioning of your kidneys that you require hospitalization.
Right. So we don't want to get to that point. So how do we protect our kidneys? In other words, how do we prevent ourselves from getting to the point where our kidneys cannot function the way it was designed to function?
So I think we need to recognize, first of all of us need to recognize the importance of your kidneys.
Right.
Why you have them to start with, right? We have them, dog have them, cat have it, chicken, you name it. And it's basically for a similar function. It is to get rid of the toxins, right? It is to help us to balance our hydration. And so having a healthy body is very important, and that's what you are required to do for yourself. So let's start with overweight. Overweight, obesity, and we know how our nutrition is. We're going to come to the nutrition, leads to, maybe we should start with nutrition. Yeah. What we eat. So, we know these days we don't drink a lot of water, we drink sodas. Not to happen. That's a very, very, very bad practice. Our children don't remember how to drink water because we think that we should give them a sweet drink, right? And a sweet drink, not necessarily meaning a soda, a fizzy drink, but I see parents giving their children, going to the supermarket and buying these pretty little boxes of toxin for their children because it's just sugar, some chemical that we don't even know what it is. You don't even know if your poor little kidney can manage it when it gets down there, right? And we give these things to our children. and we proudly take a little straw and we make the child drink, and the child drinks it, and then she gets crazy, like I've seen with so many kids these days. Too much sugar in there makes them hyper. So nutrition is very important. So drinking water is very, very fundamental. Okay? Avoiding sugar-sweetened beverages. Avoiding snacks that come from those packets that make noise. They have too much fat, they have too much salt, and they have too much sugar when you get them. And on top of it, they don't have any nutrition. They don't have any nutrients. The nutrients we require, like having protein and you understand, and the vitamin B and D and C and A and whatever it is. It doesn't. The foods that we get don't have that. They fill your belly because they probably have some sugar and some starch, which is often refined, and it's bad for you. I'm sorry, right? And we often, that's what we give to our children. But that's how we eat. Mm-hmm. And we buy foods on the road that have way too much salt. You know that. Way, way, way too much salt. And patrons go to stores, buy food, and they will not tell the chef that this has too much salt. It should not be consumed like that. I've been out recently and had some meat that was like, guys, no, this has too much salt. You need to indicate. And a lot of the people who provide food on the street, and I mean out of your house, when I say on the street, right? You go to buy boxed food or wherever they're selling food, they have a fundraiser, whatever it is. A lot of the people who do that put salt because they know we like salt. We like a lot of salt. Salt makes you retain fluids. Mm-hmm. More pressure on your kidneys, right? Retention of fluid can cause stiffness of the artery and cause the pressure to be high. And your pressure, when that blood reaches down in your poor little kidneys, poor little soft, gentle kidneys, it can't manage. It get damaged. So nutrition is very important. Water, drinking regular amounts of water. There's a thing about 8 glasses. That is not proved to be a fallacy, but you should drink water so you're not thirsty. Okay? Because what people may not recognize is that if you feel thirsty and you have a sugar-sweetened drink, you still feel thirsty when you're done.
Yeah, oh yeah. In fact, you feel for more.
Despite the fizzy sensation, because the fizz feels nice enough, and it gives a feeling of satisfaction, but it doesn't give a feeling of, oh, I'm not thirsty anymore. So water is what it is. Snacks, fruits. Whatever fruit, okay? Have fruits instead of these commercially prepared snacks. Include in our diet a lot of vegetables, green, especially green, what we call cruciferous vegetables, green leafy vegetables, carrot and cucumbers and green vegetables in general should be a major component in our meals. I'm sorry, I feel so yawny. I'm really sorry. Mm-hmm. Should be a major component of our diet, because if we eat like that, the possibility of developing diseases that become complicated and affect our kidneys in particular is significantly attenuated, significantly controlled, right, or lessened, right, if we are eating properly. Instead of eating pasta and rice, white rice and stuff, we should be eating oats. We have brown rice, which nobody likes, but there's a real nice way to cook brown rice. Brown rice just requires being cooked a little longer. Put a little beef broth in there, and you take the time and cook it slowly, right? Whereas you can get a pot of rice in a little time, brown rice might take you twice as much time. Mm-hmm. Turn the stove low and wait for it. It's good for you, and then you don't eat a whole lot. And of course, you want to eat whole grains, right? Like whole wheat and other things. But we have food that have high fiber, like green bananas. Yeah. You don't have to eat the whole thing, right? And breadfruit, which is very high fiber. You don't have to eat the whole
sweet potatoes and all of that. Yeah.
Sweet potatoes and sweet cassava and blugger and whatever else, dasheen and tanya and edos and stuff. That actually, and yams that have high fiber, you don't have to eat a lot. so your weight is controlled, right? We eat badly, and if you consume too many calories, your body is actually going to store it, and that's going to cause obesity. That's going to cause obesity. And obesity or overweight, being over 30% of what is expected for your weight and height, right? That's expected for your height, weight that's expected for your height. Being obese, overweight and obese, puts you at greater risk for developing hypertension and diabetes.
Yep.
Okay? Especially if there's a family history. And because you don't have a family history does not mean that you can't develop diabetes and hypertension. Especially in the case of diabetes, where if you eat too much foods that will raise your sugar very quickly or have high glycemic index, your body is going to have to store all of this as fat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The fat in your body become toxins that helps you to develop diabetes faster than if you didn't have them present. Okay? So these fats are circulating, your cholesterol gets high, even that you need to control. Your cholesterol gets high, and are you there?
Yes, yeah, I lost you there for a moment, but we're back.
Yeah, I think you guys had a break in something.
I'm not sure what happened there. I just lost you for a brief second, and
I
but
can't
you're back.
see you though.
You're not seeing me.
Oh no, I'm seeing you. Yes.
Okay, all right.
What did you hear? What's the last thing you heard?
Right.
Cholesterol.
Yes, we are talking about that.
Right. So, we have to make sure that we have a diet that doesn't have too much fat, especially too much trans fats and all of those things. So caring for your kidneys is part of the whole caring for your body in general.
Very critical.
You have to exercise. You must exercise. No smoking, no drink, no consuming alcohol. Okay? No, and you have to sleep enough. No use of hard substances. Right? There are things that you need to be doing to ensure that your body doesn't get sick. And of course, if you already have hypertension and diabetes, you have to control them in order that the damage to the blood vessels. There's one thing that your nephrons get damaged, but if you damage the blood vessels, then everything gone through, right? And it means that your kidney functions are going to be even worse. Of course, we talk about obesity, but of course it's important. Look at the positive. Let's maintain our ideal weight. All right? We talked about controlling our substances. And one of the medications that we use, a lot of over-the-counter medications for pain, like the NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, ibuprofen,
naproxen, aspirin.
Aspirin, yeah, but aspirin, yes, but no. Aspirin, Tylenol, acetaminophen, Panadol. Those are drugs that if you use so much, they can damage your kidneys. Right? So I'm not telling you not to take it if you have pain, but I'm telling you it's not something you want to live on. You have a pain in your foot, you take it for 2 days, the pain go away, leave it alone. Right? And there are some of the drugs, like the COX-2 inhibitors, that I've seen cause significant swelling in your feet and all the rest of it. So if you have a pain, deal with the pain, find the cause of the pain, treat the cause of the pain, and move away. There are people who just take the anti-inflammatory or the pain medication just because. Hear me now. If you think you need to be constantly taking an over-the-counter drug, you kind of need to see a doctor, somebody who's competent, somebody who would look for why you're having whatever discomfort and try and fix it, right? Find a way for you to fix it. And even if you're having prolonged pain, you don't need to be taking pain medications every day. Once you get a little relief, you give it a couple of days, right? So your kidney functions can be recuperated. So limit the amount of drugs that you're taking. We talk about alcohol. Your cholesterol level you also need to control, and the sleep. Okay? The sleep is very important because we see that sleep interruption in your sleep wake cycle does cause challenges in regulating your kidney functions. Okay? If you're partying every night and you don't sleep, your kidneys can get a little stressed out.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So if one goes to, so you've seen those symptoms, the signs, when it probably gets to a point where you start to get very concerned and probably feel frightened. So I come to see you and explain what's happening. What would be your course of action?
To you?
Yeah.
You specifically?
No, you ain't gonna see me going by you for that.
You like anybody else? Oh, not you. No, but seriously. So I would hear that you have to come to see me in that stage.
Right. Of course.
Stage.
Yeah.
Because again, as we get older, our body functions less and less efficiently. And that's why we tell everybody, do a check a year. Make sure your doctor do your bloods. Make sure he does your kidney functions, your kidney and renal functions. Make sure he does your thyroid functions. Make sure he does your liver functions. Those things. Check for your sugar. Check your prostate if you're a male. You understand? Do your breast examination. All the things that we need to do. Do a full blood count. See what's going on. All right? So this shouldn't surprise you. So this is a healthy person, or the person who thinks he's healthy. If you have diabetes and hypertension, you have to really manage your thing well. Find a doctor every 3 months. Make sure that your A1C is fine. Do you understand? Make sure your cholesterol is fine. Make sure you test your urine so that you're not spilling proteins. Make sure your kidney functions are okay, so that your creatinine, your glomerular filtration rate, and I'll explain it in a while, and your urea are normal. Your glomerular filtration rate is the rate at which these nephrons and the thing are called glomeruli, okay? Mm-hmm. Rate at which they filter urine. So we know that we want them to get 100 and out of our urine, we want them to filter 200 quarts a day, right? If it's not filtering that, something is wrong, right? So you want to check your renal functions, your kidney functions, to ensure that your kidneys are filtering a certain amount at a certain rate, right? And there's a limit. There's a way to measure that. Mm-hmm. That's what the lab. So you want to make sure that those things are checked regularly by your doctor. If you're not feeling well, your doctor really should do that. Doing a simple test in the office. You ask a patient to pass them in a container and use what we call a dipstick, a little plastic strip with some different colors on it, and each one indicates a different test. Starts from proteins. It has bilirubin, which is one of the components, one of the chemicals in the liver. Glucose, specific gravity. That is how it gives an idea as to the concentration of the urine. Whether there's glucose in the urine, okay? Whether there's white blood cells in the urine, red blood cells in the urine. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. You can do a simple dipstick at your point of care, and that will tell you, do we have any challenges here? If you're concerned. If you're concerned, I already been passing urine too much in the night. I don't want to do this, but I was still sent to the lab to get a proper test where they look on the microscope and see what is there, okay? So you came to me and you said you having what? What's wrong with you?
Abnormal urination, pain in the back, those kind of thing. You're feeling sluggish,
Your pressure's been high and your sugar's been high?
Ankle swelling, face puffy, and you're just not feeling like your usual bubbly self. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fatigue, constant tiredness. Mm-hmm. So, would I want to think? Yes, I'd want to think. And like I said, what I'll do, check your blood pressure, check your sugar, check your urine, and all the rest. I'm probably sending to the lab to do that gamut of tests. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, I know it's expensive, people, okay? I know it costs, but sometimes you got to do it. You got to make the sacrifice and get the bloods done so we can figure out what's going on. All right? Passing urine frequently might just, in the case of a woman, be a urinary tract infection.
Right.
You may be forgetting you're drinking a lot of, yes, I drink 2 glasses of water, but you probably carry another thermos of coconut water that you don't even remember. Or you may be drinking the coconut water and forget that you drink water beside that. Or when you drink alcohol, if you're drinking alcohol, beer in particular is what we call a diuretic. Mm-hmm. It makes you pass urine. Okay? So there are things that you have to consider. So you'd get to go do tests. If you haven't paid in your back, I'd be worried. If I do a dipstick for a male and there was leukocytes in urine, I'm sending you to the hospital. Because there's no reason why you should have bacteria in your urine. There's leukoesterase, which is an enzyme that kills off, that breaks down the leukocytes, but it has to do with the fact that you have bacteria in there.
Okay.
So the leukoesterase, if I see all that, if a male comes and he has a urinary tract infection, you may have an enlarged prostate, which means that your bladder don't empty as well. But if you start having back pain, I'm saying, oh, this looks like you're having some backflow up into, remember I talked about the bladder and the ureter before that, and then the kidneys?
Yeah.
You have backflow. So those are the things. There are a myriad of things that have to be taken into consideration. But you'll have to do some tests. I would examine you, of course. If I find that your back is tender, you go into the hospital. If I think your kidneys are infected, you go into the hospital. If I see you and your pressure is low and your urinary output, how much urine you pass is really very low, and you have malaise and your skin dry and you're nauseated and all the rest, I may consider that you might have renal failure, because I'm not going to be able to get a test for you currently, right now, your kidney functions. But in a hospital, they can probably do it. And even if you have to wait 6 hours, you wait. Oh, but if you look very ill, you probably need to be in a hospital. Okay,
wonderful. One other question, and time is going so fast. In the case of gender, male or female, is there any preference in terms of kidney functions? In other words, which gender is more likely to, get kidney functions, or it's just if you don't take care of yourself, then you get it?
I think our men are at a little greater risk because, the urethra is the length of the penis, right?
Right.
No bacteria supposed to go up there. Plus, men tend to have prostates that grow big, and there's a challenge with urine extraction and causing backflow, and that can cause damage to your kidneys, right? If you have chronic infection. But also, because our men smoke and drink a little more, and smoking, remember that smoking hardens our arteries, right? And it means that these little arteries around the nephrons, right, are not able to have enough exchange and filtering in and out of the toxins, and you can have. So I think our men might be at a greater risk, especially since our men tend not to take as good care of themselves as our women. They don't go to the doctors early as our women, and that's a very unfortunate thing, but it's a problem all over the world, right? So a man might be diabetic and not really managing it well, plus he's drinking and all the rest of it. And men don't seek. Most men, there are men who do, but most men do not seek care early enough. So the chances of them becoming very, very ill, right, sooner is increased when you compare to women, because our women are a little more, have better health-seeking behaviors than the men do.
Right. So finally, let's talk a little bit about the care. Someone has maybe chronic kidney disease or damaged kidney. How do we care for that patient? So the kidney is not functioning.
There are people called nephrologists. Nephrologists, right? When I talk about the nephrons, that's their business. That's a specialty in internal medicine. And they're the people that manage chronic kidney disease. Okay? They will try to help you manage your hypertension. Yes, they try to help you manage, but when it comes to that, they are the ones who would manage you. Unfortunately, when medications fail, because some patients will do well on oral medications, but after a while, you may need dialysis. What is dialysis? Dialysis is basically setting you up to a machine that acts as an external kidney. So all your blood goes through, just as how your blood filters through your kidney all day. They put a tube in, and your blood goes into the machine. The machine filters out all the toxins. Remember those extra things that you have in there, right? The surplus of sodium and whatever, and a lot of compounds, right, that we have not mentioned here. And the dialysis machine will take that out of your blood and put back. At the end of the day, your blood is cleaner, right? Or less contaminated. That's dialysis. But sometimes even that doesn't work for you. Okay? And the ultimate for patients who have kidney failure is getting a transplant.
Right.
And we all know the challenges with getting a transplant. Not everybody can give you a kidney.
Right. So
it has to be somebody who's most likely genetically very close to you, like a child or but sometimes people match. They will do tissue matching, blood matching, and see. I had a patient who recently told me he's going to go and he's heading to get he's going to try for a kidney transplant, right? From a relative, get a gift from a relative.
Right.
But a relative have to have two good kidneys, so all of these tests have to be done to ensure that a person doesn't have diabetes or hypertension or lupus or any autoimmune disease, and they're okay and healthy enough to donate a kidney.
Right. So you can actually live with one kidney. Normally.
When my kidney failed and they give me one, am I not living with one kidney?
Yes, I agree. But what about me?
You live with one kidney too. You can live with one kidney. One high, good functioning kidney, you can live. You can live forever.
What about I seem to have heard a story once. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. There was this story about using a pig's kidney. Can that work in a human?
I don't know about pig's kidney. I know they've used other things in the pigs. But no, they've used the pig for transplant. I know heart, I think. The point is, they have used other animals, but you have to have compatibility.
Right.
In other words,
so that's
you have
the bottom
to
line.
You guys, because there's no need to cut you open, give you a kidney that is not going to work.
Right. Your body will reject it.
Your body can reject it. And rejection can be a very, very unhappy thing.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have another donor stand outside the door. It's probably dead.
Okay, wonderful. Just to sort of just stress a little bit on the whole issue of dialysis, and the expense and all of that. Just to sort of send home the point that it's very important to take care of our kidneys, so that we don't have to get to that.
We don't have to buy it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So dialysis can be efficient. It started early. I know people who go from once a week to twice a week, some people 3 times a week. But it's expensive. It's very costly. And I guess as long as you look for patients with conditions, you will find that there are more and more people who need the treatment that you offer, right? We do have a lot of patients on dialysis, but not nearly enough facilities as are required by the patrons, okay? And like I said, it's expensive. I know the government is about setting up, improving the dialysis facilities at the hospital, which is a good thing. But nonetheless, we really want to leave it for people who can't really help their kidneys dying, okay? We want to leave it for people who have autoimmune diseases, people who might have had a cancer of a kidney, or whatever, people who are born with little or under-functioning kidneys normally. We have a responsibility to prevent the diseases that are preventable, like hypertension and diabetes, or at least to control them so that they don't precipitate, they don't descend into that level of severity. Right. Okay? And we can do it. It seems to be a lot of work, but we can do it. We can ensure that we control our diabetes and control our habit. We need to go screening and look for it early in the game so we can change lifestyle and we can take medications if it's necessary, right? People don't want to take medications, but the longer you wait, the more you will have to take medications. So if you screen early, we can do lifestyle modifications, what you change about the way you live, right? To ensure that you can control over chronic situation. If your urine starts behaving bad, you kind of just need to see a doctor, right? Like I said, it just might be kidney stones. If you know you have a family history of kidney stones, right, or any kind of stones, if you have gallstones, you kind of, some people tend to have kidney stones as well. You kind of need to go see somebody and make sure that you're properly diagnosed, because proper diagnosis is the first stage, right? It's the first stage to managing a disease. You can't manage a disease that you have not diagnosed.
That's
right?
true. Mm-hmm.
And here in Grenada, I think when it comes to kidney disease, I think we have sufficient facilities for diagnosing. Okay? And we have okay facilities for treating, especially the diseases that can lead to kidney failure. And like I said, there's some diseases that we don't have control over, like polycystic kidneys and plastic kidneys. And, you know, there's another thing. You can have acute kidney failure, right?
Uh-huh.
You can have acute kidney failure if you out there dancing in the sun for 3 days and you're not drinking water. But that is sometimes just one dialysis treatment will bring that back.
Okay.
And even if some people overdose on some medications that might cause kidney damage, sometimes just one dialysis treatment will bring it back, will recover it. Because I've seen one guy with when I was first coming to medical school, and this guy got mentally ill and was running the bush for days and got dehydrated, and his kidneys failed.
Mm.
And we didn't have dialysis where I worked, and we took him into another city, and he was dialyzed, and he was fine.
Okay, nice, lovely.
So we have to be very careful as to how we do it generally.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Lovely. Mm-hmm. So Doc, we basically we're kind of out of time, but I just want to before we leave.
What time of day it is?
Yeah. Before we leave, I just want to put that out as it relates to maintaining our kidney health. One, stay hydrated and maintain a balanced diet. Control blood pressure and blood sugar if you have hypertension or diabetes. Avoid excessive salt and processed foods. And finally, regular checkups, blood, urine tests that can, detect early kidney problems. Healthy kidneys are highly efficient, and even a single functioning kidney can sustain normal life functions, which is why kidney donation is possible without severely affecting the donor's death. But maintain our kidney health, very critical. If we do that, we'll be all right.
And I want us to recognize and not judge the people who have, I'm sure that some of them are listening tonight, who have kidney disease. If you have kidney disease, you have kidney disease already, okay? And most people, especially people who are on dialysis, require support, even moral support, but sometimes they need financial support. And I want us to be sufficiently compassionate and understanding, right? Because when people have severe illnesses, those of us who think we're okay tend to blame. Blame is not a solution to challenges like this. So I hope that we can be compassionate enough. We'll hear about a lot of this on Thursday from the Patient Kidney Foundation, right? People ask for donations, they'll have events and stuff to recognize it. And let's reach out to them and support them. Sometimes something as simple as giving a person a ride to go for the dialysis make a difference. Because the person who takes them there every day might have to go to their own doctor, or might have an emergency, might have a job that doesn't allow them to go on that day. So sometimes as simple as taking somebody, giving them a drive to get their dialysis makes a lot of difference for them.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's all the time we have this evening, Doc. Folks, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for staying with us. Remember, our kidneys are very important, and it's important that we take good care of them, because if they're gone, then we're gone. Definitely. So thank you very much, and of course, you can join us next week for another Doctor on Call. Tomorrow I'll be here again. It's at 6 o'clock, managing no monies, and a little later on in the evening, Kaiso Talk. So be sure to join us for that. Until then, do have a good night. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
The Granville Cooperative Credit Union introduces its
Planet, located at number 3 NIS Complex, specializes in everything for your children from newly born and upward. At Kids Planet, you will find clothing, school bags, hair accessories, sandals, shoes, strollers, car seats, bathtubs, baby bags, swings, walkers, playpens, and many more. So what are you waiting for? Hurry on down to Kids Planet and find what you have been looking for. Or call them on 444-3996 or 533-3996.
A trip to Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's. Under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organize now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 Jab Jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games.
In Grenada, sports aren't just a game. They're a way of life. They teach discipline, teamwork, and resilience. They inspire the next generation to push boundaries and chase excellence. That's why the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada is proud to support sports initiatives as part of our commitment to youth and national development. When we invest in sports programs, we invest in the future.